Hi everyone, and welcome to this next edition of the Black and Comp Bio seminar series. As you can see, we are trying something a little bit different this time, and really just focusing on giving our community members, our allies, and our members just more of an opportunity to engage with great Comp Bio stories on demand. And so we're switching now to interviews that are audio only, and you can listen to them at any time from our website and also on our YouTube. Today I just wanted to give you a brief introduction into Dr. Chantell Evans. Dr. Evans received her Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry from Southern Illinois University and her Ph.D. in Molecular and Cellular Pharmacology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Her graduate thesis investigated calcium-regulated exocytosis using biochemistry and biophysics. She then completed her postdoctoral training at the University of Pennsylvania, where she used advanced microscopy and biochemical techniques to gain insight into the molecular mechanisms that regulate mitophagy and primary neurons. Chantell is an inaugural recipient of the Hanna Gray Fellowship from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and she's currently a brand new principal investigator, assistant professor at Duke University. We're so excited to share with you the amazing conversation we had with Dr. Evans. Melyssa and I talked not only about her professional journey, but just about life as a scientist as the world continues to spin outside of the work that you do in academia. We talk intimately about some of the nuances of the shared identities we have as Black women within the field, and we dive into what it even means to be a scientist at those times, and also share a little bit of advice for navigating, and also just, what is it like to start a lab. So I just wanted to preface our conversation today, and thank you all for listening in advance. We're really excited to share this with you.
All right, well, we are here for our first Black Women in Comp Bio interview series, where we'll be talking to Dr. Chantell Evans about her career path, her journey in science, and get to know her thoughts and her thoughts about setting up a new lab. So, yeah, and we have me, Melyssa, on the board, Jenea and Taylor, director and vice director as well here.
Hello.
Hi. And thank you guys for inviting me to this little chat we're going to have.
Yeah, so we thought we would start off by kind of warming up everyone. So we have a science trivia question. So the Nobel Peace Prize is one of the most prestigious awards in the fields of science. The man behind the award, Alfred Nobel, what did he invent?
I have no idea. Can you tell me what discipline it is related to? Scientific discipline?
That's a good question. Because maybe
Nuclear physics?
Right. Yeah. Something extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing. NMR.
That's a good guess. That's better than my guess, which was not that.
Okay.
Taylor, do you want to guess or do you know?
Yeah. I know it.
Oh, okay.
It's a common...
did you know it straight off the bat, or did you know it once you looked it up?
Oh, I know. Well, I do a lot of crosswords. Trivia is my thing. This is a common one.
I was just trying to make me feel better about myself. Yeah. The fact that I did not know this. So right. Taylor's not helping me.
I'm just addicted to crosswords.
So yeah, Alfred Nobel invented dynamite.
Oh.
Which I guess warranted a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah.
Okay, well, look at us learning something today.
Right.
And then we shared this a little bit before the recording, but you were, Chantell, you were also at Penn for your postdoc.
Yeah. I was in Erica Holzbauer's lab. She's in the Department of Physiology there. And so I was there from 2016 to 2021 when I started here at Duke.
Yes. Did you, Jenea, did you meet Chantell there or overlap in any way?
No, I think I realized you were at Penn actually maybe through the Cell 1,000 Black Scientists, maybe, or something. There was some sort of announcement. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. I wonder where she's at. And it was Penn. So that's when I reached out to you. That was during the time when I was emailing anyone who was a Black professor, like, do you have any Black women in comp bio that you know of that might be interested in starting this and helping to be a part of this community I'm building? And Dr. Evans said, I'm not, but I'm happy to join. So she's been a part of it since. But, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about where you're from, maybe some of your background? What has kind of been your journey before you hopped into academia and your professional path?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Central Illinois. I grew up in a single parent household. So my mother raised me and my sister. We moved from one small town to an even smaller town when I was about 3 years old. And in that town, there was like barely any Black people. There were barely any people of color. I mean, like it was the resident, like, oh, we have our one Asian family. Yeah. And we have our couple of Black families, and here's that Hispanic family. Like it was just not diverse at all. So going through elementary school, junior high school, it was some rough time. I feel like I faced racism pretty early on. Before even going to school in kindergarten, kind of realizing like, oh, I am not like the rest of these people, and they are going to make it known that I am not like the rest of them. But my mom was really encouraging, really supportive. Even though she didn't have a college degree, she understood and valued education and really instilled that into me and my sister from a really early age. I remember her telling me one time when I was little, like, my job is to go to work and your job, Chantell, is to get good grades. And I just like took that advice and was like, okay. And so I kind of feel like that was something that drove me really through my like early education, was that idea of my job is to go to school and to get good grades. And from this, I will be able to make something of myself. Yeah. And so I think I think I struggled with finding like my identity, especially finding like my Black identity when I was little, because there just wasn't a lot of culture of any type around me. And in order to understand that, especially just like outside of my family, which was me, my mom and my sister, so it wasn't a lot. But I think it's something that has kind of helped me, and it really has impacted and influenced the rest of the decisions with where I've chosen to complete schooling and where I chose to live. It's always been like moving to bigger and bigger cities, moving to places that are much more diverse, moving to places where I feel like there's a community and can relate to people. And so it has shaped me, but I think it's really influenced me, I would say, in more of a positive direction than thinking of it as just, a negative experience that kind of deterred me. So for undergrad, I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. It was like 3 3 hours away from where I grew up. My mom was like, you can go to college, like you definitely have to go to college, but you can't leave the state of Illinois. And so I was like, where's the university that is furthest away from my mom? So I could still feel like I was like independent and on my own, but I still stayed in Illinois, like she asked me to. So there I went thinking that I was going to actually go to pharmacy school. I had received the Gates Millennium Foundation Award from Bill and Melinda Gates. And so that gives you a full ride for your undergrad. And so like I've always really liked STEM fields, English reading. Those were never my areas where I thrived. Always into, biology, physics, mathematics is my area. And so I went in just being like, okay, I'm going to take the prereqs to get through so I can go and apply for like, there's an entrance exam, kind of like the MCAT to get to pharmacy school. Was going to do that and then go. And so after 2 years of taking all of the prereqs that I needed, my mom was like, JK, you need to stay because you have a full ride. So you need to stay to get a degree. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me like earlier? Like, what are you doing? I'm in my sophomore year. You know? So I went to my guidance counselor and asked, like, okay, here are the classes that I've taken. I am now going to stay for 4 years. I need to get a degree at the end of this 4 years. What do I have the most courses in? And I'm going to be that major. And we looked at everything and she was like, you have the most courses in chemistry. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a chem major. And she was like, whoa, you don't just pick chemistry as a major like this. Like, these are very hard courses. And this is one of the most difficult majors at the school. And I was like, I got this. No worries. I like chemistry. And so that's how I became a chem major. And so I stayed for 4 years, got my degree. And then the summer before my senior year, I participated in an REU at my home institution. That's where I really started getting experience of what a laboratory could be like and what you could do that was outside of a more classroom setting. Because in the classroom, I was like, these labs are boring. Like, you're sitting there making acid drops and changing colors slightly and, doing things that wasn't interesting. And so that really opened my eyes to what could be done and what questions I could ask and starting to think critically. And people were letting me, do things on my own and find results. And how do I analyze this data? And so it was a really great opportunity. And because of that was one of the reasons why I decided to apply to grad school. I feel like I've always tried to prepare myself for multiple outcomes, but I still make decisions very last minute. So like I took all the prereqs so I could go to med school just in case because I didn't know. But I didn't apply to grad schools and I sent like the applications was like the last possible second. I took the GRE in November, applications were due in December, just last minuting thing. It's not the best, but it worked out. So I really for grad school wanted to focus on something where I could take my chemistry background and then like apply that to a biological setting. And so I was looking at like pharmaceutical sciences programs, pharmacy programs, pharmacology programs, different things like that. And so I ended up going to the University of Wisconsin in Madison and for their molecular and cellular pharmacology program. And so I went in thinking I was going to study cancer. If you read like my statement, it was like, I can't wait to study cancer and find cures. And I ended up going and studying neuroscience and looking at neurotransmitter release. So completely opposite of what I said that I was going to do. But I trained in Ed Chapman's lab there. He's in the Department of Neuroscience. Really, really great opportunity. Really enjoyed what I was doing. Really like applied my chemistry background. So I was doing a lot of biophysics and in vitro biochemistry to kind of understand how this specific protein was activated and how it bound to calcium. So altering amino acid residues to kind of change the conformation and the binding affinities and all of these things. So it really did really nicely kind of encompass what I set out to do. And I had an overall great experience as a graduate student. And even though I had a great experience, I still didn't know if like academia was for me. I feel like a lot of times I was the only or one of few in the room. And it really kind of affected my sense of belonging and my perceived career path. Like, can I do this if there are not people here that look like me? And so my advisor really sat me down and was like, look, I think that you can do this and you need to pursue this. If you want me to find like mentors who are diverse, who you could talk to, that we can do that. He really helped me to kind of get the confidence that I needed to continue into academia. And I'll say overall, I feel like it worked out. But then I ended up really wanting to do a postdoc because I wanted to learn new techniques. I really liked what I was doing. And I loved neuroscience, but I wanted to learn how to do live cell imaging really badly. And I think it was just in lab meetings. We had a group who was doing cell biology. So they had all these beautiful images. And I was over there just making like bar graphs that were in grayscale. And I was like, I just want some of these pretty images and understand, like actually watch proteins and organelles move. And so I ended up joining Erica Holzbauer's lab because it was, again, like the best of both worlds. She still did a lot of basic biochemistry, protein purification, but she always coupled that with live cell imaging. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have a steep learning curve of learning how to do tissue culture work, live cell imaging, but I can always fall back on, I have this strong biochemistry background. And so there I had a great postdoc experience overall. I really enjoyed what I was doing, and it really, like, learning how to do live cell imaging really changed my career trajectory and like focus of what I thought I wanted to study. So in her lab, we started looking at mitochondrial dynamics, and they're one of the best things to image because they're so dynamic, they're constantly moving. And so doing live cell imaging of that, I was just always really excited about what I was doing. And then being able to really apply it to understanding neurodegeneration and like having a better understanding of that process really, really excited me and kept me focused on it.
Yeah. So thank you for that. There are actually a lot of points that you shared that I think we'll probably touch on, specifically like mentoring, your motivation to do your postdoc, and also just kind of like what kind of catalyzed each of the steps that you took in your professional career. So I think, firstly, I want to touch on firstly kind of what's motivating you right now as you're building your lab to kind of reflect the support and kind of the help you've had along the way in your journey. More specifically, like how are you, what is your mentoring style? How are you hoping to like make an impact on future trainees' lives? And what about your own experience kind of informs the approach that you take to mentoring?
Yeah, I think what has probably most informed the way that I'm taking to mentoring now is the long-lasting relationships I've had with my former mentors. Both of them extraordinary people, and they really got to know me as an individual in addition to being able to mentor me in terms of my academic career and science and things like that. And so I think it is really important to get to know each one of your mentees and understand their background and where they're coming from and what they're bringing to the table into the lab, because it's really important in how you're choosing your mentoring style and approach to each individual. We all come with our own baggage, and if it's not recognized, it can make sometimes for difficult situations or not really being able to really communicate with each other and really understand where each person is coming from.
Right.
So I think that's something that I've been trying my best to really focus on. I think there are little things you can do. Someone told me when you're a mentor, every time you open up a meeting, ask them how they're doing. Don't immediately jump to the science or to the focus of the meeting. Get to know them. What was your weekend like? Open it up to where it's still a dialogue and you're getting to know each other throughout your experiences and time together. Yeah. And I think I found that to be really helpful, especially with, when you have rotation students. Sometimes, since I'm just starting my lab, they are working directly with me. And some students are like super excited, and other students come in and they're maybe a little bit more anxious or nervous, like, oh, I have to work with the PI, like, ugh, and so having those kind of, how's it going, general, just regular everyday conversations with them, I think opens them up a little bit more to where they feel more comfortable working directly with me, which I think has been beneficial. Mm-hmm. Also, I really tried to be upfront and honest with expectations. So I put together a lab manual before I had my first rotation student join so that they could read that. And within that, I really laid out pretty much most expectations for the lab of what I expect of them, but also what they can expect of me. Because I think, again, it's really important to understand what the situation is, right? What you're getting yourself into when joining a lab, but also, joining this, mentor-mentee relationship.
Right. Yeah.
That's so nice to hear. I feel bad because I don't think I've ever heard of anyone say that they've had a lab manual during my rotations here. So that's nice to know that that's, like a standard thing that maybe I should look into. Yeah. So we read that you were a part of the inaugural cohort of the Hanna Gray Fellows, and we were just wondering, what was that experience like? How's it been? And how does that shape your goals as a new PI?
Yeah, the Hanna Gray program has probably been one of the most influential programs that I've been a part of. Just in terms of the prestige of being associated with HHMI, but also because of the group that I get to be a part of. So I was I guess I had just become a postdoc. It was probably 3 months into me being a postdoc when that the award was first announced. And so I got an email from my PI advisor, from my advisor for my PhD, and an email from my postdoc advisor, you will be applying to this. And they're like, this aligns perfectly with who you are and what you want to do. You need to apply for this. So I was like, okay. So I applied not thinking I was going to get it at all. I actually found out I made it as a finalist when I was on vacation in Spain at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Immediately sent an email to my postdoc advisor being like, I'm sad I didn't bring my computer so I can start working and preparing for my talk. And she was like, you're on vacation, calm down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super cool because with the program, when you're a semifinalist, you go and you give a talk in person. And so you're in these groups where you get to see what other people are doing. So we were in groups of 3, so I got to see 2 other people's talks when I gave my talk. And so it was really intimidating because everybody is coming in, doing this fabulous science from really prestigious institutions. And it was like, oh my God, I hope I do good. Mm-hmm. But it was that alone. I left that semifinalist symposium feeling like if I didn't get this award, that experience alone was worth it. Mm-hmm. And so when I found out that I got the award, I was super excited because, from the small group of people that I got to see, I knew that I was going to be among such a group of, young scientists who were doing cutting edge research, who also were from diverse backgrounds. So I felt like, oh, these people will identify with my lived experiences in academia, right? Mm-hmm. And so, that's basically what the group has been like. And even though we're not all in the same schools, I still feel like I have very close bonds with many of them. And, we have Slack channels, we have group text, we're always talking. What's great is like a lot of us have now started our labs at the exact same time. So we're always like helping each other, like, how much did you pay for this? Do you think I could get this? And just kind of sharing things back and forth, which has been really, really great.
Awesome.
That's so great. That's so wholesome that you have that community to lean on, especially like setting up your new lab when there's not really a good manual for, how to be a new PI, but having, people that you relate to and identify with as a support.
Right.
This must have been really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was also really helpful when on the job market. People were really willing to share some of their application materials and how they negotiated and what that looked like. And it really was useful because I feel like a lot of these things are kind of black boxes and you don't really know until you're in the situation. So having the support of others was tremendous during that time.
Kind of branching off of that, can you speak more to like what other information you were gathering during the application process to kind of determine like what schools you wanted to apply to and like what would be the good fit for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Because when I was talking to my mentors and we were trying to decide how many schools I was going to apply to, and, they're like, put together a short list of schools and departments that you think you would like to be a part of. So it was like me really going through websites, trying to be like, oh, what are the areas of research within this department? And, how will I fit into this department? Who could I potentially collaborate with? Trying to look at things like that. And I came up with like 10 schools I was interested in applying to from that. And then really, went back and forth, talked with my mentors, like, what do you think of this department? They'd be like, yeah, that's a great department. And maybe avoid that department or, different things like that to get an initial idea of what places I was going to apply to. When I went on the job market, it was also 2020. So you're dealing with a pandemic and you're dealing with social justice issues and, the state of the country and world was in, a very vulnerable place. And so there weren't as many job openings as there typically was. And so that was something we had to deal with. And we ended up having to go through an interview online, right, through Zoom. So I was spending like 25 hours a week on Zoom, going to different schools, right? Yeah. And so it was a very unique experience that maybe one day I'll look back and be like, oh, what a time. But like right now I feel like it's like, it was a lot to deal with, and to go through day after day and trying to, be on and smile and be engaging when, these things are happening outside that you have no control of, that people really aren't discussing with you, when there are things that, you needed time to kind of process in order to then put on that face to continue on through the application and interview process. But I think it was a unique time, and I feel like there were, maybe more opportunities because people were paying attention to who they were hiring, kind of, right? Some schools for the first time, like, oh, we should probably have a diverse pool come in to interview for this position, and diversity statements were a real big thing that year. And so it was a unique experience coming in as a Black woman, checking multiple boxes there, and going through the interview process.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, can we stay there? Like, do you feel like some of the momentum is lasting in that regard? Are you continuing to see that support not only for you, but maybe some of your faculty peers or anyone else who has kind of gone through the process at that same time? Personally, I'm feeling like there's a little bit of a shift to where we're just kind of trying to plaster this into history and not actually nourish what it could actually be as an actual infrastructure for support. But that's my opinion. I guess I'm asking mainly of yours. How are you feeling in 2022?
Yeah, I think it's hard, right? I try to be understanding of things. It takes time, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of us are being told right now, in order to make big changes, it takes time for an institution to do that. But at the same time, it's like coming out of 2020, there were promises made. There were statements that were said about what changes institutions, and companies and lots of things that people said that they were going to do to not only increase diversity, but like a specific focus on Black people, right? And it, for me, has been pretty disheartening to see the backtracking that is happening now, or the changing of, it's no longer going to be focused on Black people or Black trainees. It's going to be focused on all trainees or, minoritized trainees. And not to say that initiatives don't need to be focused on those issues, they do. But what was promised and what delivered isn't matching. And I feel like people are losing their steam. And so I do find it pretty disheartening to see the results of everything. I mean, the institutions and the initiatives that some people are still carrying on, very excited for them, happy that they're there and that they're moving forward. And I wish that there was more push and funds behind them. But overall, I do worry about the stalling or slowing of the momentum.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that could actually be a whole separate talk probably for us.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it also just kind of reminds us that, you weren't going through this process, in a vacuum, like things were happening for all of us, but also for specific groups of us during that time. So definitely want to commend you for that. And I was kind of seeing your journey unfold on Twitter. So while also, there's like protests and stuff happening here in Philly and so inspirational. But I'm glad you made it through and continue to inspire others.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, I lived on the Parkway in Philly. So
wow. Yep.
So protests are happening outside of my window, and you can hear helicopters constantly all day and see, police lights, and like what we're watching happening on, national TV is right outside.
Yeah.
And so, it was a lot. I had an interview the day after the insurrection, and it was like, how do I go into this interview and not want to discuss things? Or I also interviewed the day after another Black man was shot in Milwaukee. I think it was in Milwaukee. It was in Wisconsin. And it's like, how do I go into this and put on my best face and smile and be like, yes, you should hire me. When inside I'm like, how do I process all of the things that are happening? So I think it was a really unique time, and everybody, has these experiences that they could share of, I was here when this happened, or I had to do this when this happened, or as the only, minority, people came to me of, what should I do and how do I handle it? And so we all have that as a collective that, it was a lot though.
Yeah. Yes. I think one of the more important things also is that maybe some of us don't even appreciate, not even like all the things that are happening outside of the sphere of this professional thing, but we don't necessarily even realize how difficult the process is or how long it is to kind of get into a faculty position or just the journey as a whole. So I want to ask about that. But then I also want to, before that, I want to just ask, what has grounded you throughout the process? What have you held on to for support, communities, just a sense of relief? How have you kind of healed from that? Because I don't want to just jump into the, all right, well, things are okay. And, here's more advice. But like, I want to acknowledge that, like, even as a community, there is healing that has had to take place for everyone in academia, Black people in academia specifically. So how have you done that?
I think what I found to be the most helpful is just like getting on calls with my friends and just talking through everything and talking everything out and getting everybody else's perspective and kind of processing collectively, I found to be extremely helpful because, I felt pretty isolated at my institution. And so having other Black postdocs who were of my similar career stage was helpful to talk with them to see what's happening at your institution and how does that compare to mine and what can we do about this, and from that I think a couple of initiatives we kind of grassroots efforts started that I think that were really helpful and supportive for me. So one of them is a group of Hanna Gray Fellows, and we approached our leadership with like, what can we do to make a change with what's happening right now, right? And they were so receptive to it. We were all quite scared they weren't going to be, but they were. And from that, we had a big discussion with all of the Hanna Gray Fellows. We started to try to come up with some new initiatives that we could be doing and different things like that. And I think that really helped. I also started working with the community of scholars. So this is a group of underrepresented minorities who were mostly postdocs, a couple of graduate students, and a couple faculty members. And they started writing things and started writing, op-ed pieces or STEM education pieces, just different pieces that were focused on different issues that minorities were facing and going through during when you're in academia. And that I found to be extremely helpful as well. But, also always leaning on my family members and my husband and people, who understand what it is that we're going through when you are Black in academia and could be more just like of a listening, an ear to kind of allow me to get it all out and then kind of respond. Like, they have not gone through that situation. So they haven't experienced it, but they can listen to me, which has been, and appreciate what it was like going through it. And so that was extremely helpful.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for allowing us to take a more holistic approach to that era.
It was an era, yeah. Yeah. And everyone has their stories. Yeah, it was an era.
Melyssa?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, were there any things during your postdoc that specifically prepared you for your career now, like being a professor, and what were some things that you experienced during grad school and also in your postdoc that really drew you into academia?
Yeah, so I could say for my postdoc advisor is really good at generating future PIs, right? So like most of the postdocs in her lab want to stay in academia and become a faculty member, and she's really great at training you for that. And again, one of the reasons why I chose to go to her lab. So she does a great job of promoting you. You know, not only is she your mentor, but she's also like your sponsor. When you aren't around, she's always, oh, I know this great person who would be good for this, and always, you know, helping find opportunities for you, which was great. She was really big on sending you to conferences. And so that was amazing because I really didn't get to have that experience as a graduate student. So when I was in her lab, I went to like 4 or 5 conferences. 2 of them were international. I got to go to Scotland and Japan. And like, you know, she was just so good at that. She's like, it's great when I talk about your science, but it's even better when you are there to talk about your science. Right. So the networks that you're able to build from attending those meetings and collaborations and, you know, ideas and sharing your work and receiving feedback was, I mean, invaluable. It made a huge impact on, you know, making sure that people in the field knew me. So when they're looking at applications, they see my name and are like, oh, I know her, you know. That's not going to, I mean, that's going to help you when you're going through that process. And so I think that made a big difference in how I felt about academia because I was in a really collaborative space that was really supportive and made me feel included and not the other. And so from that, I was like, okay, well, now as a faculty member, I want to create that same experience for more, you know, underrepresented minorities to where they have that space to where they feel creative and can come into the lab and do the science that they're wanting to, and not always having to focus on the fact that they are, you know, they're underrepresented and the challenges and difficulties that they may face. So I am just excited to begin along that journey. And I already have 2 graduate students. Both are women and one is an Afro-Latina. And so I'm just so ready to kind of begin that experience and help them to, you know, cultivate that community and support system that I think is very necessary to be a woman or a minority in science. And so I feel like a lot of the time I've been able to get through so many different adversities and things because of the connections and the support system and community that I've built, to where if you are having trouble, you go talk to them who identify with you and can help and support you through those difficult times.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think that really resonates with BWCB as a group as well. Like that's one of the reasons why I find it so helpful is that I'm able to kind of come to folks in this group and, you know, complain or celebrate and, you know, they'll get it. So it's really nice to see that that seems to be a main pillar in your, you being a PI at Duke and a mentor. What?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenea.
I was just wondering if you considered other paths at all, industry, government, nonprofit. Has it crossed your mind, and what about those made you say like, nope, not even gonna think about it? Maybe or
that's an interesting question. So I feel like when I was going through graduate school was the time where people were like, oh, they can't all stay in academia. We're probably going to have to think of ways to where we can show them what other career paths and trajectories they may be able to take with a PhD, right? So like we were starting to have panels of people coming in talking from industry or from all of these other, you know, I hate to use the word alternative career paths because more people go into those paths than they probably do in academia, right? Yeah. So I thought about going into industry, and my PhD advisor was really like, no, stay. Like, don't leave academia. You need to be here.
Yeah.
And so he basically kind of convinced me, the way he said it was, once you leave academia, it's difficult to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are on the fence or undecided, just do the postdoc in academia. And if you don't like it, you can always just exit.
Mm-hmm.
If you do like it, then now you're prepared for that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took that advice and I stayed. And part of me still, even at the beginning of my postdoc, was like, maybe I'll just leave and go into go into industry.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got the Hanna Gray Fellowship, and that was a game changer. Once I got that and realized, like, oh, I have 4 years of funding as a postdoc, but I also have another 4 years of funding as a junior faculty member. I was like, oh, okay, well, here we are. I guess I guess this is what we have to do. So it really put me on a different career trajectory by getting that fellowship.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I think, definitely. I don't know about all of us here. We might be, I think I know Taylor's answer, maybe a little of Melyssa. And I think I'm still on the fence, but it's just nice to hear all the perspectives, especially when it comes to like mentorship and opportunity and like what it even means to have resources for you to be able to take that step. I think it definitely helps inform a lot of people's decisions.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult decision to make. I feel like sometimes on Twitter, science Twitter is really good at just like making academia so it seems like it's the worst place, and industry is so much better. But then I talk to people in industry and they're like, "Girl, it's the same."
Yeah.
So I think there are challenges everywhere. It's really about how you handle those challenges in those situations. For me, I think I guess I find it rewarding, and I enjoy the fact that within my lab, I get to create the dynamic. I get to create the boundaries of what it looks like. And so because of that, and because of my lived experiences, mm-hmm. I'm going to strive to create the most inclusive environment that I can, and make sure that my people are okay, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, I hope that by doing that, it leads to more minorities wanting to enter into academia, enter into STEM, but also to retain the ones that we have there, right? That we have now. I think a lot of the times we see people leave after grad school or leave into their postdoc because they feel so isolated and feel so not a sense of belonging and community. And so I always am thinking of ways to which, how can we create that community to keep people here? Because there are good scientists who leave academia because of these reasons. And I find it so frustrating that we're losing such talent to something that if we all just worked a little bit harder at it, we could easily, create a better community in academia.
Mm-hmm. Again, I feel like everything you're saying could also be a separate conversation because touching on so many of the points of not only kind of like related to your journey and your path, but just like our everyday lived experience in academia. Either way, you getting your PhD, you most likely have to do it in the academic setting, and like you're exposed to this anyway. And so I think it's good to just take inventory and realize like some of the forces at play there that are kind of either retaining or like deflecting some of your peers, from doing what you want to do. Something I think about with just trying to hold on to the community of scientists I came in with, and hopefully we all make it out of here in one piece, and also just have the freedom and opportunity to do what we want to do after. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Melyssa, go ahead and ask your question.
As someone who is probably leaning more towards industry, I was just wondering, what are some of like the unexpected things of your job now that you've really enjoyed, that you're like, like this is why I'm here, and, it really keeps you motivated throughout?
I thought you were going to ask the exact opposite. I thought you were going to ask, what are challenges that you did not even know were associated with that
you
job?
Can speak on that as well.
Yeah.
I guess, so I think one thing that is challenging but also rewarding is managing people, right? So I didn't realize how much work and effort goes into managing all of the people within your lab and keeping everybody happy and on the right path scientifically, and making sure the at-home life is okay, because, that can sometimes affect the research and, time and everything. It is difficult to manage people, but it's also so rewarding when, watching them progress and develop and kind of blossom as a scientist, right? Watching them learn a technique and then come back with like real data, like, look, you taught me and here it is. I've now mastered this and here is data. It's exciting, but it can be challenging. So I think it's really important to make sure you have the right group, right? I feel like as a new faculty member, a lot of times people will just hire people because they want someone in their lab. I've tried to be really strategic with who I hire and why I hired them, and think a lot about how are they going to fit into my lab dynamic, right? And is it going to continue to be the dynamic that I want to create in this space? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one thing that's rewarding, but also difficult at the exact same time. Other things that I find, I guess, that I've really enjoyed about being a new faculty member is I really have liked my department. My department has a lot of really good scientists that I have complementary skill sets with. So the interactions and like the scientific conversations that I've gotten to have with them, I find really great, and have really like pushed me to start thinking about using, new techniques and learning new skills and things that like I was totally not thinking about as a postdoc, that have been really nice to see and exciting to kind of think about future opportunities and things. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that has been, I guess one thing that I was most shocked about when starting the lab is how much time you spend at the beginning talking to vendors. Mm. Right? Like I was not prepared. Yeah. I was not prepared for this at all. Right? Because I don't know what I thought was going to be, but like, you have to fill a lab. How else are you going to get this stuff? So I feel like most of your time the first month is literally you talking to vendors, looking through catalogs, picking out what you're going to purchase, trying to get them to give you a discount because you're just a new, lonely, sad PI, and so you should get extra money off because of this. And things like that. And I just wasn't ready for like the first month to be that. So that was pretty surprising for me. Also, I came from really big labs, and so it was really lonely at first. Like I was the only one in my entire lab space. And then I hired an undergrad to help me to to unpack boxes of things. And so she would only come in like 2 times a week. And so I would find myself when I would get home from work, I would just like to my husband, like, and this happened today. He's like, whoa. And I realized it was because I wasn't talking to anyone for like the whole day.
Yeah.
So that was just like a unique experience. I also remember I was looking to do something and I was like, oh, I'll just get a Sharpie and like write this on like a piece of tape. And then I realized I did not have a Sharpie nor tape. And I was like, again, I was from big labs. Like you walk in and everything's there. And so I had nothing. And so one of the first things I did was put together a Staples order so that I could get Sharpies and so that I could write stuff. So things like that. You're just like, oh, I have to buy that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like there should be a new lab starter pack with at minimum.
I mean, they try to help you as much as possible. They have like spreadsheets where you can kind of like check off to make sure you're getting things. But everybody is, so particular about the type of glove and the type of tip. And is it a barrier tip or a non-tip? A non-barrier tip? Like everybody has such particulars about things that you still have to go through like the entire catalog to find stuff.
Yeah. Well, we have technically like 1 minute left. Do you have like 3 minutes on your clock to just chat about maybe how you sort of more of your research? We had a few research questions that we didn't get to, but are you collaborating or hope to collaborate with any computational scientists or biologists? How are you planning to incorporate that into your work, or how are you fulfilling those needs? And I guess just what is your vision for how you might just create a space for interdisciplinary work in the future? I think most people will know what you do, but also if you spend like 10 seconds just telling people your research.
Yeah. So my lab uses proteomics, cell-based assays, and quantitative live cell imaging to understand mitochondrial dynamics and regulation and how that contributes to neurodegenerative diseases. And so in what we do, if you proteomics, quantitative imaging, lots of data, lots of numbers. Definitely need to initiate these collaborations. They're super important, and I feel like now the NIH is moving towards like, if you want to get an R01, you do have to show that you're working with like a biostatistician, computational, somebody along those lines, because as we continue to get towards these larger data sets, processing has to happen, and a lot of cell biologists and basic biologists just don't have that background, and so the easiest way is to collaborate with someone who's also excited about what you do. It makes a huge difference about what we can analyze, especially for me. If we're tracking mitochondria over the course of 5 minutes, sometimes like 2 hours. That can generate a whole lot of data. And we have particular questions that we want to ask, but sometimes we don't have the best way or the most streamlined way to analyze the data in order to get an answer for that question that we're interested in asking. And so that's when it comes time to be like, hi, people who do things like this, can you please help us to be able to interpret our data or to quantify it in certain ways in order to understand and address our questions. So I think it's super useful. It's 100% necessary. And as we continue to move towards larger and larger data sets and generating more and more data, it has to be a collaborative process. It's just not feasible to do it on your own anymore. And that could be said for, the interdisciplinary of pretty much most of what people are doing these days. You need somebody who's, the proteomic expert to work with the cell biologist who does live cell imaging, to work with an electrophysiologist, to work with a structural person to like really get a real global understanding of what's going on. So I do like the idea that now people are moving towards like grants, I think like pods or having multiple PIs working together to address the problem. I think that is where a lot of good, not only foundational research, but a lot of exciting new avenues and thinking about how, diseases are progressing and different things like that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really exciting to kind of see the opportunity in your lab specifically for that intersection of work, and you'll be able to kind of cultivate that environment of bringing in different people from different backgrounds. And I think sometimes as comp bio people, we sometimes feel like we need to be in a lab where almost everyone is computational, but I think there are pros and cons to being in different types of environments and just understanding how you can contribute to that dynamic. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that for the computational people listening who might be interested in a job.
Yeah, come on over. We have work for you.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation and for opening up about your journey. Again, we could probably talk forever about everything we talked about, but I think we learned a lot just about your motivations, your background, and your mentorship style, but also, how you've been able to navigate this journey, kind of taking your identity into account and just, being a human being throughout this transition. So thank you for opening up about that and shedding some light into the realities of that. Melyssa, anything to close out?
No, yeah, definitely appreciated hearing a lot of what you said today. It actually has me considering maybe I can go into academia.
Do it. So, you find that support system. You find your mentor and your coach and your sponsor, and they will help you get through that process. And I think you need all three of those people, right, to make. To help you navigate it. And It's been a really positive experience for me by having that support system.
Yeah, so I'll be reaching back out to you.
Yes, please do. Because I there's nothing I feel more embarrassed about. It's like when a Black woman walks by, I'm like, I don't know her. Wait, like I need to do something with this. If you're in my building, I need to know you. We need to have coffee.
Yes, that sounds lovely. Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll be inspiring lots more people as well as they listen to this.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to share my experiences. I have a lot of people that I look up to. And as I go through this process, I am always thinking about how I can be and set an example for the people who are coming behind me, but also how I can continue to push open doors for more people to enter behind me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. And with that, we will wrap up. You'll be able to learn about more about Dr. Evans. We'll probably have a description under wherever this is posted to learn more about her research, her lab, and just get to know where you can connect with her. Twitter, LinkedIn, is that okay?
Yeah, Twitter, okay. LinkedIn, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening, and thank you all for being here and being a part of the conversation.
We hope you really enjoyed that awesome conversation we had with Dr. Evans, and we're so thankful for her joining us. If you'd like to learn more about her, visit her lab website at evansresearchlab.com. And if you're interested in mitochondrial biology, neurodegenerative diseases, and quantitative imaging, the Evans Lab is currently hiring postdocs, so feel free to send your CV to her through her website. You can follow her on Twitter at ShannySky, which is CHANNYSKYE, and find her on LinkedIn as well as Chantell Evans, Ph.D. Chantell spelled Chantell, Evans, Evans. This interview was hosted by Melyssa Minto and co-hosted by Jenea Adams on the BWCB Executive Board. The music is by Anno Domini Beats from the Copyright Safe YouTube Music Library. The Black Women in Computational Biology Network is a global community of Black women scientists advancing biology through a computational lens. With over 200 members from 4 continents, we increase opportunity for collaboration, professional development, and science communication to change the face of integrative biosciences across the globe. The Black in Com Bio series highlights Black scientists from a variety of professional backgrounds and their stories. Thank you for listening to this one.